Hey guys, welcome back to another Python lesson, and today we're going to be going over global and local scopes. Now first off, what is a scope? Well, a scope refers to the area where a function or variable is accessible to other parts of the code. Now there are two main types of scopes when you're programming, and that is the global and local scope. Let's first take a look at the global scope. The global scope is the scope where all elements, all variables, functions, really much any object is accessible throughout the entire program, while a local scope, on the other hand, is only relative to that block of code. So let's go take a look at an example. Let's go create a variable, and this would be called my age. And you can put whatever value you want, and we're just going to put 20. So this is a global variable because it's accessible throughout the entire program. Now let's go take a look at a local scope or a local variable. So in this case, we're going to go create a function and we're going to call this calculator. And it's just going to have two parameters. And of course, you don't need to know anything about this right now. You don't need to know what this is. All you need to know is that we have two parameters right here. Now we're going to go create a variable adding these two arguments together. So we're going to go call it my sum, and we're just going to add a plus b. So now let's say that we actually want to add 5 to my sum right here outside of this calculator function. Well, if you look, you can see that there is actually no such thing as my sum. We have my age right here, but we actually cannot see using Visual Studio Code that we have access to my sum. And if we do type in my sum, you can see it says my sum is not defined. So technically what Python is telling us is my sum is not defined, even though we have it right here. And that is because we are in a different scope. We are in a local scope, while right here we are outside of that local scope. So my sum is actually defined locally inside of this calculator function. So we cannot use this variable outside of the calculator function because that's just not how it works in Python. So if we want to actually get the sum of what we have here, we would either have to return my sum, or another way that we can actually access my sum is to have my sum be a global variable. Now you might think defining my age like this would actually make it be a global variable, but then it wouldn't be able to be used locally like this. So for a quick example, though my age is global, we can use my age inside of our calculator. If we go assign it to the value of 5, you're going to see that it's a local variable again. And so now if we print my age, it won't be 5 anymore, but instead it still will be 20, like so. So if we go clear all this and run it, you can see that we have 20 and not 5. So this is still a local variable. But if we want my sum right here to be a global variable so we can actually use it outside of this function, what we can do is use the global keyword. And what this does is it makes our variable globally accessible. So now we don't only have to just use our keyword or our variable right here, my sum, inside of this calculator function, but we can use it throughout the entire program. So now we can do my sum. And now you can see that Visual Studio Code has highlighted this variable. So now if we save and run this, what we should get is my sum should have the value of 10. And that's exactly what we have right here. And that's because my sum right here is now global. So when it comes to scopes and creating variables and functions, you have to be aware of the global and local scope. So the global scope right here is accessible throughout the entire program. So that means any variable or function declared in a global scope can be accessed and used throughout the entire program. Whereas a local scope is only specific to a certain block or area of code. So you cannot use this throughout the entire program. So that's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to be going over arguments and parameters.